How does the mere thought of gargantuan beasts erupting from the desert and causing complete mayhem sound to you? Absolutely terrifying, right? Truth be told, it is the inherent fear of the unknown, the idea of being stuck there, and your fated encounter with the monster that form an idyllic setting for most creature features. This brings us to the main contents of today's video, where we will be taking a look at 8 of the most fearsome and gut-crunching sand-dwelling monstrosities that are waiting out there just for you. Our list has some of the biggest and the best monsters ever that are highly capable of inducing your psychological terror. We suggest that you stay tuned till the end of this video. Are you ready? Let's dive right into the video then. But before we get into our explanation, we do have one very small request. If you enjoy our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Now let's begin. Sandworms from Dune. To see this territorial creature and then live to tell the tale is otherwise exceedingly rare, especially if you are not a Fremen in the first place. Well, it is only fair to say that the unthinkable was pulled off when visionary filmmaker Denis Villeneuve adapted Frank Herbert's 1965 novel Dune and came up with his epic science fiction movie, also of the same name, back in 2021. No points for guessing that the high point of Villeneuve's film happens to be the physically awe-inspiring, colossal sandworms dwelling on the harsh desert planet of Arrakis. This predominant life form on Arrakis, one that is both feared as well as held in high regard, is found dwelling underneath the sand and highly attracted to the pulsing vibrations on the surface. Because they are very territorial, even with one sandworm sensing the presence of another sandworm, both will let out heavy breathing roars, which is basically one challenging the other. These sandworms are capable of growing to a gigantic size. The ones that have been spotted in the hospitable deep desert have been 450 meters long, and the longevity of these creatures is at least thousands of years. Villeneuve wanted the sandworm to be a prehistoric creature possessing the ability to survive the harshest of environments. Hats off to him and Paul Lambert, the VFX production supervisor, for paying such detailed attention not only to the appearance of the worm, but also effectively on the action surrounding the creature, making it look genuinely lifelike. In terms of their appearance, the sandworms are absolutely petrifying to look at. Their skin is impenetrable, scaly, and semi-metallic. Also, the scales on their body are intertwined with each other, forming an armor that shields them from internal sand invasion. Speaking of the internal workings of a sandworm, they look like a massive blast furnace capable of generating concentrated heat and flames. Let's not disregard the monster's rasping mouth that is filled with countless spiky teeth. And because a sandworm has its mouth positioned right in the front, this gives the creature the advantage of devouring huge objects like the spice harvester's post, which it is seen burrowing beneath the sandy terrain. It is the sandworm's larvae that produces the drug melange, which is otherwise known as the spice, one that happens to be key to interstellar travel. And no points for guessing that melange deposits are inevitably found in the areas where the sandworms live and hunt. Truth be told, it is the struggle over the production as well as the supply of melange that happens to be the fundamental theme of the Dune saga. Well, if you ever find yourself on Arrakis, we suggest you try walking without rhythm. In that way, maybe if you are lucky, it will not attract the sandworm. Graboids from Tremors film franchise. Meet the primary antagonist of the Tremors franchise, who simply loves to snack on humans. One of the reasons why these massive underground worm-like creatures are called graboids is because they like to grab their prey and then suck them down their hungry throats. Hope the name has served its purpose now. These creatures were first introduced in Ron Underwood's 1990 monster comedy horror flick Tremors, that had them initially hidden and snaking through the sand in the isolated settlement of Perfection in Nevada, only to develop a taste for the human flesh and cause a complete ruckus in the process. It is very difficult to go up against these subterranean, giant-mouthed carnivores because of a lot of reasons. Firstly, you are bound to feel absolutely powerless against them because you never really see them coming. Their method of ambush is attacking their victim from underneath. Next, they are gigantic with long serpentine bodies, so that inevitably makes them very difficult to stop. Then comes their speed. Please do not let their size fool you into thinking that they cannot move fast, because that would be a fatal mistake. A fully grown graboid would easily be 30 feet long, 6 feet in terms of its width, and weigh at least 10 to 20 tons. Having said all of that, it would take a graboid a minimum of 3 months to reach this size. Graboids are anything but mindless killing machines, and they don't even require eyes to hunt. They have this acute hearing ability, which they primarily resort to for hunting purposes, and all they need to do is just sense the vibrations overhead. They possess a trio of long, eel-like prehensile tongues that are usually kept retracted in the throat area, but can easily reach, say, about 10 feet. It is also these tongues that grab the prey in the first place. Besides grasping, the tongues, which are also addressed as tentacles, tend to act like the arms and hands of the gargantuan monster. It is often believed that the tentacles have minds of their own and are seen behaving like snakes, making hissing noises and writhing. This does make one wonder if they are reptiles at the end of the day. Well, to answer that, no, they are not, despite having a thick, uneven, leathery hide that gives them a reptilian look. Graboids are also very powerful in terms of their strength. They can break through objects and also pull an entire station wagon underground. Their burrowing skills certainly deserves mention. If you thought a human can run away faster than a graboid can burrow, you are wrong. These creatures can travel through the soil, maintaining a speed that is parallel to a shark swimming in the sea. Their ravenous appetite makes them hungry all the time, and besides humans, they also have a thing for sheep, horses, cattle, and donkeys. They are quite particular about their taste too, because if they don't like something, they will spit it out. Bioraptors from Riddick. Say hello to these apex predators that were first seen in David Twohy's 2000 sci-fi horror movie Pitch Black, as natives of the desert planet M6117, one that was part of M344 G planetary system. These essentially exceedingly aggressive and carnivorous creatures were fatally sensitive to light, so much so that they would spend most of their time residing in the cave systems to avoid sunlight. Mind you, even the light from a flashlight is capable of having a corrosive effect on their skin, such as burning them. Coming back to M6117, it has 3 suns, which means that the planet is bathed in perpetual sunlight for almost 22 years. However, after the 22 years have passed, all of the planets within the M344 G planetary system will then begin to block each of the 3 suns, and thereby create a pitch black environment on M6117. It is the full eclipse which tends to work in the favor of the Bioraptors, who can then roam around freely and go on a frenzied killing spree. With time, the already vicious Bioraptors have become countless in number, and it is only fitting to say that they have single-handedly managed to wipe out all other forms of life on the planet. Do not be shocked when we tell you that they have even gone to the whole extent of eating one another when hungry. Behavior-wise, they are absolutely pitiless. These monstrous hunters will attack and slaughter literally anything that will be on their path. Please keep in mind that you cannot train them, you cannot communicate with them, and forget even attempting to threaten them. So when you are dealing with a Bioraptor, you are basically dealing with a dangerous weapon here. To begin with, the creature has robust wings, deadly claws, and a mouth full of a sharp set of razor-sharp teeth. Mind you, their tails are powerful enough to lift up and carry a being many times their size before shredding them into pieces, of course. Their heads are sharp enough to stab and even bisect someone into 2 with just a simple thrust into top things. Would you believe us if we told you that they are blind? Bioraptors make use of their ultrasonic sensors, which lets them sense their prey via echolocation. Add to this their exceptional sense of smell that makes them track their prey even in complete darkness. Oh, they are very absolutely devious in nature. A prey will never realize when they are being used as bait by them. Sarlacc from Star Wars. Do you consider yourself an ardent fan of the Star Wars franchise? Well, in that case, you most certainly cannot forget the iconic immobile desert monster Sarlacc, who was featured in Star Wars: Return of the Jedi. If you ask us, it is impossible to forget this semi-sentient, plant-like omnivorous creature possessing an incredibly large maw, tentacles, and let's not disregard that voracious appetite. Found on several planets all across the galaxy, including the desert planet Tatooine, Sarlaccs attain maturity after living for 30,000 years, while the younger members of the species can easily move underneath the sand, and with great speed, may we add, to catch hold of their prey. The humongous-looking older ones remain immobile, thereby becoming sedentary pits of doom. Thanks to their enormous tentacles, they can grab hold of their prey and pull them straight into their mouths, and eventually into their stomachs. The razor-sharp teeth of the Sarlaccs are also slanted inward. This ensures that their prey remains trapped inside and is not able to climb back out. Now, for those of you thinking that credits should be given to the creature's tentacles because that's what they primarily resort to when they need to capture their prey, hold it right there. You will be amazed to learn that Sarlaccs are known for emitting some kind of an odor that draws in herbivores as well as scavengers close enough for them to make use of their tentacles. That is wily, right? Well, so are Sarlaccs. The only visible parts of these creatures tend to be their mouths, beaked tongues, and the tentacles. And as for the rest of its entire body, it is buried down to depths of at least 100 meters beneath the surface, which in the process also protects all of the creature's vital organs from any kind of damage. Also, given that sarlaccs were immobile, they digest their victims very gradually. We are talking over 1,000 years here. For those of you thinking how on earth will that be possible? Well, all thanks to a well-placed connection of blood vessels in the sarlacc's stomach that will first pierce through the prey's skin, then inject a paralytic neurotoxin and attach the ill-fated victim to the walls of the stomach. Sarlacc's stomach is conclusively a new definition of both pain and suffering, because the blood vessels that we just spoke about also provide the victims with nutrients to keep them alive inside their stomachs, and at the same time be slowly and painfully digested. Wereworms from the Hobbit franchise. The origin of these mythical, terrifying monsters goes back to the year 1937, with the famed J.R.R. Tolkien briefly mentioning about them in his critically acclaimed novel, The Hobbit. Well, it is only fair to say that it was more than enough to have other forms of media take these colossal, fearsome worms up ahead, give them their own spin, and then have them on display over the years. Mind you, when a hobbit states that he is all set to fight these wereworms, it basically means that he is geared up to do anything for that matter. Here, we'd like to elucidate on the creature's various adaptations. If we take a look at the 2003 video game titled The Hobbit, the wereworms appear more like caterpillars making fearsome snarling sounds. Mind you, they are blind here and can be snuck up upon, although we're afraid we might not be able to retain the same tone when it comes to describing the monsters' appearances in the movies. Peter Jackson's 2014 epic high fantasy adventure flick The Hobbit, The Battle of the Five Armies, has these creatures making a grand but brief appearance bursting through the grounds. It is Gandalf who to his utmost horror identifies the creatures. In terms of their appearance, the wereworms are massive in size with rock-like skin, and let's not forget those dreadful jaws. In spite of their momentary appearance, in the live-action movie, the wereworms are seen making quite the impression, and truth be told, you don't want to run into them. Greater Krayt Dragon from Star Wars. So, you think you know everything about these dangerous creatures? Well, let's find that out, shall we? Well, to begin with, did you know there are different kinds of Krayt Dragons? If you are into Star Wars, you would be familiar with the massive canyon Krayt Dragon. Yes, the one that looks more like a mix between a dragon and a lizard. This reptilian predator has been seen on Tatooine, growing to a size of 40 meters and busy hunting the Tusken Raiders and the Jawas. Now comes the Greater Krayt Dragon, one that we got to see in the second season of The Mandalorian. Safe to say, these are way bigger than the four-legged canyon Krayt Dragons and can easily grow up to 100 meters. They are highly ferocious. Their body structure is more like the extinct plesiosaurs, having on display an elongated neck as well as a tail. To cut straight to the point here, you do not want to be in the path of a hungry and angry Krayt Dragon, because there is just no going back. Surviving an encounter with one is a big thing, but most prefer to avoid these creatures for obvious reasons. Greater Krayt Dragons pose very serious threats. They can speed through the sands and not even spare the sarlaccs for that matter. Of course, we are talking about the bigger sarlaccs here. The monstrous Krayt Dragons are also highly valued for their pearls, which basically form inside their stomach pits thanks to their unique digestive process. There are hunters who actually view these jewels as the ultimate trophy, but good luck getting those pearls. You might want to survive the creature's corrosive acid shower first. Imhotep Sandface Monster from The Mummy. Stephen Sommers' 1999 action-adventure movie might have hit the theaters back in 1999, but there is no denying that The Mummy manages to retain its charm to date. The high point of the movie undoubtedly happens to be Arnold Vosloo, as the reanimated mummy Imhotep, and the former high priest of Osiris's determination to resurrect the pharaoh's mistress, Anck-su-namun, with whom he had an affair, with the storyline having Imhotep as the undead fiend going to extreme lengths to revive his lover. He was seen using his control over the element of sand and magically conjuring up a sandstorm to thwart the efforts of his enemies. Now, when we say sandstorm, we are basically referring to Imhotep's bellowing sand-faced monster, one that was created with the sole intention of killing his enemies, and in this case particularly Rick O'Connell. If you were thinking shooting endlessly at the sand-faced monster will incapacitate it, you were wrong. Rick O'Connell tried doing that, but that only led to Imhotep getting angrier and letting out a nasty growl. Now, with Imhotep growling, it becomes clear that the sand-faced monster will also be following in the footsteps of his master. It does the same thing, becoming even more bigger in size, and ends up swallowing the plane Rick O'Connell was in, Had Evelyn not distracted Emotep with a kiss, we would have been left with no options but to bid goodbye to O'Connell. Nobody could have managed to survive the wrath of this sand-faced monster here. Giant ant monsters from it came from the desert. First things first, when you find an abandoned testing facility in a desert, you are supposed to take a U-turn. But that was clearly not the case in Marco Macalosso's 2017 action-adventure comedy flick, one that was inspired by the cult classic video game of the same name. Say hello to the biggest mutant ants on display, who seem to have a thing for ethanol so as to increase their numbers. Even if the whole idea of oversized ants taking out members of a desert keg party one after the other sounds goofy to you, please know that the creatures on display are a devastating threat. The worst thing is that the CGI is so good that the ants actually end up looking every bit real. Oh, they are absolutely brutal when it comes to the kills. And if you manage to have one chasing you, you can pretty much say goodbye unless you happen to be on a dirt bike. Marvelous verdict. Well, that is all for today. And with this, we finally come to the end of our video here. So which of the ones mentioned were you most intrigued by? And which one ended up inducing your psychological terror? Did your favorite sand monster make it to our list? We would love to know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then please do leave a thumbs up. Also, stay tuned with us as we promise to come back with more exciting content. Till then, goodbye, and thanks for watching. Have a nice one.